Okay, well, I will be introducing my friends and family here shortly, but I'm really super excited to talk about Enly and the Buskin Blues, and thank you to Malaprop so much for hosting once again, and everybody be sure to buy lots of books tonight. And thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. So great. But I'm really excited to talk about this book because this was my most fun book to write. Mostly because Alex and Elliot, my boys, helped me so much with this one. They really pulled it along. And, you know, the basic premise of the book is this 12-year-old Enly who wants to go to a music camp that his friend Pinky tells him about. But his parents, his mom, I should say, his single mom, can't afford to send him to the camp. So he gets the idea that he's going to bus to make the money for the tuition. And basically it's a story about chasing your dreams and finding your community and people who help you along the way. Thank you. So this one right here in the front. So this is my son Elliot, and so I'm just going to ask him first to see if he remembers how we came up with the idea for the story, or I came up with the idea for the story.
Well, it was originally, I play piano, and it was like 5th grade, I think, when I had the idea I wanted to busk. And one time in 5th grade, my Spanish teacher brought an accordion to school, and I thought it was really interesting. It had like piano keys on it, and it was like my dream that I could like go downtown and busk. So we went, and I asked my mom, I wanted to spend my money on an accordion, and we went to Chuck to talk about it, my piano teacher, and he told us that he showed us the melodica, which is way better to busk. So we got one of those, and that was really the idea.
So we've got Chuck here, Chuck Lichtenberger. He is a local pianist, teacher, composer. He plays with a bunch of bands, plays all over town, and he's gonna bring up the melodica and show us how it's played, what it's about. Can you talk a little bit about the melodica first? All right, sorry.
Yeah, I like to think of a melodica as being a combination between a harmonica and an accordion. It's got reeds like a harmonica, and you have to tune it like that. You shave the reeds off if you want to do that. It's pretty challenging to tune. I'm not able to do it. And the thing about that makes accordion so complicated for piano players is that they have buttons on one side and keys on the other, and those buttons are, you know, it's learning a new instrument. It's not a smooth transition, but for a piano player, if you're just a piano player, making the transition to this is very easy, because it's the same thing. You're just blowing air into it, and you control the volume with how hard you blow, just like any other wind instrument, and then everything else functions like a piano.
Thank you, Chuck. Really appreciate your doing that. And I know you helped us about that, so I just, you know. Okay, gosh, that was great. Let's see what else. I'm sorry, I have to read my notes because, it's a little nerve-wracking up here. Okay, so Elliot, I have some questions for Elliot. He helped me so much with this book, but he was a little miffed that he didn't get his name on the cover of the book. He thought he should be a co-author. So I said that he could come up here and help me out with Okay, so Elliot, why did you want a bus?
I can't remember my exact reason for it, but it was in 5th grade. But I think I just really wanted to make some money, and yeah, that would be really fun.
It wasn't to save money for college, like I had been trying to get you and Alex to go downtown and bus.
I wasn't really concerned.
But when you're that young and cute, you could have made a lot of money. People like to give you money just because you're really cute. Okay, well, how much money did you make? How much money did you make?
I made none, but so far. But
and why not?
I never really got around to Buskin. I never had that courage.
You didn't have the courage. Okay, that was my next question. Why did you never bus? So you were too shy or introverted, or you didn't think you were good enough? Oh,
Mom.
they would have given you money.
Back to the book. After I give you the idea for the start of the story, how did you come up with the rest and the plot and what else happened?
Okay. Well, this was another pantser novel, Fly by the Seat of Your Pants, as opposed to plotting the novel. I think I used I'm calling it the Alan Gratz method of writing. There's another kid-lit author around here, Alan Gratz. And when you were, gosh, I guess you must have been 8. We came to a book event here done by Alan Gratz for his book, League of Seven. And I remember he was talking about his book, and he was talking about how he pulled in all of his favorite things. So it was like steampunk and electricity and secret societies and all that. And he just made a list of all his favorite things, and then he kind of widgeted them all into a book. Of course, he's a big plotter, I think. I don't think we quite got to that specific plotting or even making the complete list, but I definitely pulled in all kinds of things that I loved, and Asheville things that we were thinking about, everything from, lottery tickets and busking and gentrification and can you cross the overpass bridge or not, and bullies, just whatever was going on at that time. Let's see. Now it's my turn. Okay. Let's see. So yes, Elliot, besides my borrowing tidbits from your life, can you talk about some of the ways you helped me with this story?
I say I helped a lot in the book. I inspired you at the start, and then whenever you made a new revision or added new pages, I proof them for you. I'd read through them and tell you any edits you need to make. Like, the kids wouldn't say this, or that's not what would happen. And then we went downtown together, and we'd talk and interview some people, like street performers, and
research.
Yeah.
We went to some places like the pawn shop. We did go to the pawn shop and Asheville Discount Pharmacy. We bought a bunch of lottery tickets, and you really did all that hard work of scratching all those lottery tickets for me, right? And then you also helped with the promo, tagging all your friends to buy the book, and techie bits like helping me make videos and learning how to do some techie stuff.
Yeah.
And you really did also help me to decide to write like a fun, kind of just fun caperish novel this time. I think my previous novels were sort of heavy issues driven books, and this time, when you were in 5th grade and Alex was in 8th grade, and I noticed that you guys were reading less and less. You guys were big, voracious readers before that. But when you stopped wanting to go to the library or go to the bookstore with me, I would have to just bring home a ton of books and just leave them around, hoping you would pick them up. And you guys often did pick them up. But one time I brought home this big stack. I remember I was watching you from my office, looking through all the books, and then you flipped through them all, and then you were just like, Mom, why do you always bring home these sad books about people having really bad struggles? And that was true, because that's the kind of book I like to read. I think it's important for you to read that kind of story, to see that other people, you know, aren't as advantaged as you are. But I also thought of what Jessie, our librarian, had said to me several years ago, that there are books that teachers and parents want their kids to read, and then there are books that kids want to read. And so I decided, well, the next book I write is going to be like a book that you might want to read. So that's when I decided to write something fun. Let's see. What else do we have? Let's see. You also came up with Enly's name. Did we talk about that already? No.
No, we haven't.
How did you come up with that name?
I don't know. I don't know where I got the idea from, but I thought it was a really funny name to have for a character in the book. And like I told Mom to change the name. She wasn't really sure about it, but I kept nagging her because I thought it would be really good.
Yes, I remember I didn't like the name, and I was like, no, we got to find something else. And you persisted with that name, and so I said, okay, well, we'll use that name. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, oh, well, Amy, my editor, she'll probably want to change the name. So I'll just throw him a bone for now, and then let her be the bad guy when we have to change the name. But she never said anything about the name. And actually, when one of my young readers, Nolan, he's not here now, but he said when he was reading the book, he thought he read an early manuscript. He said he thought Enly was a girl throughout the novel. And then so I was thinking, oh, that's kind of nice. It's like a gender neutral name. I didn't think about that. So the name has since grown on me greatly. So yeah. Let's see. What else? Oh, okay. Speaking of the name, okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you identify with Enly?
Enly was definitely based off of me, but I'd say, but we've done a lot of editing and revision. So, and I'm also like, he's still a 12-year-old. I'm 14 now. So I'd say I identify with him on about like a 6 out of 10. Like we're kind of alike, but not the same anymore.
Yes, I that's funny that you said 6, because I would have said like more like 2. I wasn't thinking of you besides the start of the story, but he was definitely, well, at the time when we started this novel, you were actually like 10 or 11, I think, and you were a much more, I think, quiet child. I thought you were a quiet child until recently, but you were quiet. And, Enly's kind of outgoing and, kind of real, like, determined and a little bit more annoying than you are. Yeah, you're a perfect child. Right now you are. Okay.
All right. So how much do you identify with Enly's mom?
I would say a lot. Maybe like an 8 on the scale of 1 to 10, because I'm, kind of grumpy and overtired, and I stash ramen from you and like to lie on the couch when I get a chance. How much do you think I'm like Enly's mom?
You got it pretty right. We did basic character.
I like the way you say we. like we're
We.
like we. I really did do most of the writing. Really? Okay, now your questions.
Besides Enly and the mom, who were the other characters that we based off of people?
Well, of course, there is Buck Lichtenberger, the pawn shop owner. riff from Chuck Lichtenberger, the musician, but he said we could use his last name for sure. And then there is Spencer, Enly's brother, who's very much like your brother. And all the other characters, may have been seeded by somebody you guys have talked about or someone I've seen in the, downtown, but, I had to pretty much make the personalities up and the physical descriptions. Yeah.
And you based the setting on Asheville.
Yeah, this is my tribute to Asheville. I named it Altamont after Thomas Wolfe's Look Homeward Angel. But I tried to pull in places and settings that are, more local, less known, like Asheville Discount Pharmacy is Mountain Pharmacy, and the Vanderbilt Apartments, Olmsted Apartments, and the pawn shop and various places like that.
And you did a ton of editing. Do you know how many drafts or can you really scale how much you changed the story from the start?
It's hard to say how many drafts. I would estimate, 6 or 7 or 8, because how you kind of write a little bit, and then you backtrack, and you write a little bit more, and you backtrack. But other than that, I had a couple of, early readers, Carolyn Rosenthal and Nolan Adcock. They were very helpful. And another thing that Nolan had picked out was there was a early character that he thought should come back later in the novel. And, I thought that was probably true, but at the time, I couldn't think of a way to get her back in there. So I just sent it off to my editor. I was like, we'll see what she says. And of course, he was right. That was one of the things she picked out for me to work on, and she, helped me along with that. She also helped me a lot with strengthening the dad parts. And this was actually probably the most revision I did on any novel. She said at one point, "Oh, you can add as many as 5,000 words." I was like, that's a lot. I don't know if I actually did 5,000 words, but and the other part that was a big change was I have a bunch of songs in there, and they were initially Disney songs. Do you remember? I had those Disney songs in there. And I always use the fewest number of words that is allowable in literature, where you don't have to pay the licensing fees and all that. But that still wasn't good enough, because apparently Disney doesn't like their intellectual property infringed on in the slightest way. So she was like, let's just make it easier and just, change all the songs. So that was a big thing that she sort of helped me find other songs.
Well, I think this is the last question. What was your favorite part of writing the story?
My favorite part is always where I get to write the end. And another favorite part is, of course, when you would come home and you would ask for pages, and you would take them over to the couch, and you guys would read it, and I would hear you guys snickering or groaning or "Mom, no, take that out." So that was fun. And my next favorite part is when I get to see the cover, and because the author doesn't have really anything to do with the cover for the most part. So it's fun to see how other people interpret and visualize the cover. And speaking of which, we have a little video that I made with the cover artist. A little recording. Her name is Michelle Jing Chan, and she's in Seattle, and she was kind enough to speak with me and make a recording for you. I'm gonna have to move.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for talking with me. Can you talk a little bit about how you became a book illustrator?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. And my whole life, I've done art as a hobby, starting from childhood all the way up through high school, and then kind of stopped doing it once school and things started getting busier in late high school and college. And then I actually got back into it during the beginning of the pandemic when I broke my foot and everybody was isolated inside. And so I kind of turned back to art and rediscovered it as a hobby and fell back in love with it. And so I didn't actually study art in school. I studied engineering and business, but that experience during the pandemic taught me that art is what I really love. And so one thing kind of led to another, and I kind of fell into the world of publishing and found out that illustrating children's books would be a really good fit for me and kind of marrying my love of art and of reading. And so that's how I got into publishing and back into art.
That's great. Um, Now, because the author isn't usually involved in the cover, I'm curious about what happens on your end. Can you talk about how much instruction you got from the publisher, or did they just give you free range to do whatever you wanted to?
Yeah, of course. It depends a lot on the project, but for this particular project, the publisher came to me with three different ideas that they had for the cover, and I showed them three different sketches on those ideas, and together we narrowed it down to one idea to go with.
Okay. And did you read the manuscript before you started playing with your designs?
I did read a sample. The publisher sent me a short snippet to just get an idea of the characters in the world, and so I did read that before I started.
Uh, Now, the background image on the cover really looks like Asheville, my city on which the book is based, or the story's based. And Enly looks very much like my son, Elliot, who kicked off the story. Are those coincidences, or how did it happen?
Those are happy coincidences. The town looking like Asheville was intentional. The publishers told me that it was inspired by Asheville, and so I went on Google Earth and looked up images of the courthouse to make sure that I got that detail right in the environment. But the character looking like Enly is the character looking like your son is a complete happy coincidence, and it's actually the second time this has happened in another picture book that I've illustrated called Moonlight Memories by Amanda Davis. The father in that story ended up looking exactly like Amanda's husband, and I'd never seen a picture of him prior to designing the character. And the same thing happened with Enly. So happy coincidence, but I think it's really cool that that has happened twice.
That's great. And are you willing to share some of the early sketches with us, and also maybe give us a tour of your office?
Yeah, of course. Let me turn my camera around. This is my workspace. It's a little bit messy right now, but this is my giant tablet that I use for all of my book art. And here's one of the sketches that we did for Enly. This is the cover, that a concept that we actually ended up going with, of him playing in front of the courthouse. This is the second sketch idea of Enly and Pinky finding the winning lottery ticket and Enly's melodica next to him. And this is the third sketch idea of Enly and his older brother running away from a bully. So yeah, this first sketch was the option that we ended up going with the publisher. And this is the desk where I do all of my artwork. I usually do my sketches on this stand with my iPad, which I'm holding now, and then all of the actual finished work for the book on my big tablet. And then on the back of my wall, I have a bunch of art prints. Some are by me and some are by artists I really like. It's really nice to have this because I feel like whenever I'm struggling with a piece, I can just look up and get inspired by all these pieces on my wall.
It's beautiful.
And then last two things that I think people will hopefully enjoy are this boba lamp that I turn on at night when I'm working. And I have this little rainbow sign.
That's great. And my final question is, what else are you working on these days?
Yeah, so my debut picture book, Moonlight Memories by Amanda Davis and illustrated by me, comes out in June. And then I'm also working on a couple more picture books, including one about Lunar New Year, one about the real life story of Mamie Tape, who was a Chinese American girl who wasn't allowed to go to school in San Francisco in the 1800s when schools were still segregated. One lullaby book called Good Night Sounds, and one more book that I am not allowed to share yet since it's not been announced.
Oh my God, that's so great that you've gotten busy in such a short time. I'm really excited for you. And thank you so much for taking the time to record with me.
Yeah, I guess that's all we have. If there's any questions, we can take some questions.
Hi, I was curious about, you said you started with the Disney books and then did you, I mean, the Disney songs, the music part, I'm curious about. So did you end up going with public domain songs or did you try to use hip songs that young people are listening to?
No, we used, as part of the story, it's, you know, Enly's piano teacher is an elderly woman who's a little bit outmoded according to Enly, and she's teaching him, you know, older songs that he's not really that interested in, but he's very polite about it. But I think we went with Broadway songs. Yeah, that's fine. And Elliot is happy to answer any questions too.
I have a question for Elliot. So, with the name Enly, you said you picked this one out. Do you know someone by the name Enly? Is that how you found it, or just kind of read it somewhere else, or where did you find that?
Like I said earlier, I have no idea where I got the name from. I don't know anyone named Enly, and I don't think I've read it anywhere. I think I just came up with it and thought it was really funny, and it was similar to my name.
Didn't you tell me recently or one time that you were in class at school, I guess, but
Yeah,
it popped into your head, daydreaming about the book. That's cute.
Have you two made this presentation at your school? Are you going to?
We didn't make this for the school, but we'll probably show some of it. And we haven't gone to any schools yet since this is the premiere of the book. But we plan to go to schools and talk about the book and other stuff.
Yeah, we have a couple of elementary schools. You know, we'll see if Elliot can miss any more school days. He just missed a lot of school days for some reason. But yeah, that'll be an easier presentation. It won't be like Q&A. It'll be more like presenting to the students with a slide show.
You said Enly wasn't one of the original names you had. So what names were you planning on using for that character?
I can't remember if we had a holder name. Do you remember? I can't remember.
We didn't have any planned names. We had like a couple that we were considering, and I think
to share?
I don't remember any.
They weren't exciting, obviously.
For Elliot, I'm wondering if going through this process with your mom has kind of helped guide you towards what you want to do. Are you a writer? Could you ever see doing something like this yourself?
I'm not super interested in literature and writing and stuff. I think I did this because it was just fun to do and it was interesting. But I don't really see myself pursuing a career with art or literature or anything like that.
What about music?
I play piano, but I'm not fantastic at it, so not really looking into that. Next question.
What are you working on next? And would Enly grow, or is this the last we'll hear of it?
Oh, I don't know that I thought about Enly anymore. But I am working on another young adult historical novel that's due out in 2025. It's called Red Car to Hollywood, and it's set in 1924's Los Angeles, old Chinatown, new Hollywood.
Writing a book set in Asheville, was that just really easy and fun, or did you encounter challenges you weren't expecting?
It was fun. It was easy and fun. you know, like at one point I asked my editor, oh, should we use the real names of places? And she said, maybe not in case they don't feel they're being portrayed correctly. I thought that was really good advice.
Well, congratulations on the book. Both of you. For enjoying reading it. The question I have is more for Elliot. Was there some controversy? You know, it sounds like you're getting along pretty well with your mom. Was there something mom just blew up and she wouldn't listen to me on that one? And I don't agree with the way that.
I think it was sort of the other way around. Like mom would have something and I'd be completely opposed to it. I don't know, the kids having like little jokes and quips and stuff. Sometimes I would have ideas for them and I really want mom to have them. And sometimes mom would make them and I wouldn't think they were that great.
Yeah, he had a lot of opinions.
Were you pleased with the final results, Elliot?
Yeah, I think the final book's pretty good.
Pretty good.
When you guys interviewed street performers, did you find anybody who played the harmonica?
It's not a really common instrument, and we didn't find anyone who played melodica, but we didn't. But we did talk to a lot of street performers.
Actually, I read somewhere that the melodica is used in Asia, you know, in school sometimes to teach them music. I guess the way we use, what's that? A recorder. Yeah, the recorder is used here. So I thought that was interesting. Although that was the first I heard of it. Yeah.
One of the things I feel like I've noticed about Kidlit is sort of where all the parents on team, and I was curious about how seems like there is a parent in here and how you navigated that voice of the parent.
Yeah, the parent is. She's very busy. She's working 2 jobs, and that's why she's not very present. And that's why Enly can't go to music camp. It's because so that worked out pretty well, I think, for this in service of the story. Yeah. Good. Is that it? I don't know if you had anything else, Stephanie. Okay. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming.